Continuing our reading in Ragweed and Poppy by Avi, today is two chapters, chapter 37 and 38. Chapter 37, At Gray House. A small red car pulled up in front of Gray House. Mr. Jack Saunderson, the real estate agent, unfolded himself from the front seat and stepped out onto the road. Tall and skinny, he was dressed in a pale blue suit, white shirt, and a striped tie. Pausing briefly, he noticed the pickup truck, then stood before the house and momentarily appraised it. Finally, he turned back to the car. "Come on, Dudley." The large brown dog with a sharp nose and floppy ears jumped out. "Good boy," said Mr. Saunderson, and he gave the excited dog a scratch behind one of his ears. The dog looked up and wagged his shaggy tail. After attaching a leash to Dudley's collar, the man said, "Don't think we'll be here too long." With Dudley the dog on the leash, trotting along at his heels, Mr. Saunderson went up to Gray House and onto the front porch. The boards, he noticed, squeaked. He put a hand on the porch rail. It wobbled. Some of the rails were only attached at one end. "I'm about to fall apart," he thought. He went to the doorway, and since there was no door, he leaned over the threshold and shouted, "Hello, anyone here?" "I am," returned a voice. The large man with gray hair and a green peaked cap, the man who had come in the pickup truck, stepped out through the doorway onto the porch. His assistant, the young man, also came forward. The older man held out his hand to Mr. Saunderson. "Todd Guffin, Derrida Deconstruction Company." "You the real estate guy?" "Yes, Jack Sanderson. Amperville Real Estate. Pleased to meet you." The two men shook hands. Mr. Guffin said, "Nice looking dog. What kind is he?" "Golden Retriever. He's a good hunter. Goes after rats, squirrels, raccoons, foxes, anything." Dudley suddenly lurched toward the open doorway, pulling on his leash. Mr. Saunderson had to hold him back with two hands. "Steady, Dudley," he said, easing his dog back with the leash and a pat on his head. Unable to move forward, the dog whined and barked loudly 5 times. "Sit," said Mr. Saunderson to the dog. Dudley sat, but whimpered with frustration, his tongue lolling. "Looks like he smells something," said Mr. McGuffin with a grin. "Do you have people who want to buy this place?" he asked. "It's a wreck." "Yes, sir," Mr. Saunderson answered. "They seem to think they can fix it up." "Have they seen it?" "A few times, I guess. Amperville folk, a couple with one kid, gave me a call. So yes, they're interested." "I don't know," said Mr. McGuffin with a shake of his head. "I think it'd make more sense to knock it down and start again." "I'd love to do that," offered the young man. "Well, the land is nice," said Mr. Saunderson, "and the price is low." He looked at his wristwatch. "They should be coming along any minute," he said. I'd better step in and have a look around for myself." Mr. Saunderson turned to his dog. "Dudley, you need to stay." He tied the dog's leash to the porch rail and said, "Stay," to the dog again, and walked into the house. Mr. McGuffin followed along with the young man. The dog sat, whimpering some, barked twice, but remained in place, panting. Mr. Saunderson wandered around the front room, staring at the floor and ceiling, sniffed. "You're right. Must have been mice here a while back," he said. "Lots of them. No wonder Dudley barked." "Yeah, something," said Mr. McGuffin. Mr. Saunderson picked up a boot that was on the floor. "The farmer's old shoe and necktie," he said, and flipped both into a corner. "What a mess. Folks got too old to run the farm. Moved to the city." Mr. McGuffin kicked a straw hat and sent it skidding across the floor. "Must be old Farmer Lamont's straw hat," he said. "Want me to tell these people how bad this place is?" "Sure," said Mr. Saunderson. "They need to know." "Okay, but I mean, it's in bad shape." "But it does have possibilities," said Mr. Saunderson. Lots of closets, and the house has a good setting. Quiet. It could be lovely. I'll walk around until these folks arrive. Lotar's mother hurried across the orchard. When she reached the old pump, she paused and studied Gray House. She recognized it as a human house, but saw nothing to deter her. In any case, she was much more interested in the road that passed in front of the house. Hopefully, that blue car with Lotar inside would be passing along soon. The question was, would she be able to stop it? It was frightful to consider, but if she had to, she would stand in the middle of the road to bring it to a halt. No matter what, she was not going to let her boy be taken away. She hurried on. Avoiding the house, she crossed the road and found a hiding place in a clump of wildflowers. Gray House was right across the way, and she could keep watch on the road. Satisfied she was in the right place, the big raccoon squatted down and waited for the blue car to appear. Led by Poppy, who had remained at the front of the snakeskin, the mice moved through the orchard. "See anything of that raccoon?" called Basil from the rear. "Not so far," Poppy answered. "Where'd it go?" asked Primrose. "I hope it didn't go into Gray House," said Glory. "Lungwort wouldn't like that," said Rocket, giggling. "Hopefully it went somewhere else," said Poppy, and continued to lead the way toward Gray House. "It will be so good to get back home," she thought. "What I need is some peace and quiet." Chapter 38. In the Blue Car. When the blue car left the log house, it moved slowly down the dirt road. Susan's father was driving. Her mother was in the other front seat. Susan was in the back. Once she had settled into her seat, Susan pushed a button on the door handle. Her nearest window rolled down, letting in lots of fresh air. She bent over the trap. Ragweed was squatting in a corner of the trap, staring up. "Is having the window open okay?" Susan asked him. Not understanding, Ragweed simply looked back at her. Lotar, out of sight under the back seat of the car, remained crouched in the dark space. He was trying to guess why the blue box was shaking and rumbling so. It feels as if it's moving," he told himself. "If it is, where am I going now? Do these people know I'm hiding beneath the seat? Mama said to keep away from people and stay quiet, but what are these people going to do with me? I hope Mama knows where I am so she can rescue me. But where is she? If I'm moving, it's like being on that train. Good. Ragweed can come and help me find my Mama, the way he did before." Lotar almost called out, but thinking of the people, decided that he'd better keep quiet. Ragweed sat in one far corner of the trap, which remained on the girl's lap. He continued to stare up at her, wondering what she was saying. By craning his neck, he could also see out the window and observe the rapidly moving landscape. "I'm going somewhere again," he realized. "Wonder where?" As he sat staring at the girl, it was impossible for him not to ask himself, "What's going to happen to me this time? Maybe I'll go back to the city." He turned. The girl was looking at him as if expecting him to say something. He gazed back and touched his earring. It was safe. I'm glad that something is. How could this mouse change the color of its fur?" Susan asked her parents. "Are you sure it has changed?" "Uh-huh." "Sometimes shifting sunlight can make colors look different." "No, it's different. It is." "If you say so," said the girl's mother, but didn't sound as if she believed it. Susan didn't care. She knew it was true, and she loved the fact. "I have a mouse who can change her fur," she said with pride. Ragweed, wishing he understood what the people were saying, kept thinking. And nothing to do but be patient again. It's boring being patient. Wonder where that Poppy went. Would have liked to have said goodbye to her. She was nice. Hey, whatever happens, happens. "How long will it take to get to that house?" asked Susan. "Not long. We'll be off this dirt road soon. Then a regular road called the tar road. A few minutes. What are we going to do when we get there? We'll look at the house again and decide if we like it. We'll try to learn everything we can, and we need to fix it up. People to give us advice regarding repairs will be there too. And the real estate guy. And? Insisted Susan. We can see if Spaghetti wants to live there. Now, Susan, her father said sternly, let me say it again. I don't want any mice in the house. I'm going to be honest and say I'm not even happy to have one in the car. But I love mice, said the girl. She bent over the cage and said to Ragweed, don't worry, I love you. Susan, I'm sorry, you simply can't take that mouse into the house. We can't allow that. If you wish, you're welcome to stay in the car with her. That's your choice, but I have to say, it would be nice if you looked at the house again. You might be living there. Oh, okay. Crouched beneath the clump of flowers by the side of the road, the mother raccoon kept staring along the tar road. It was not long before her determination was rewarded. A blue car appeared. That has to be the one Lotar's in, she told herself. Heart pounding, she braced herself, ready to leap onto the road to get the car to stop. But as she was about to jump forward, to her surprise and relief, the car came to a halt on its own, where she most wanted it to stop. With Poppy in the front under the snake skin, the mice, having worked their way through the orchard, reached the pump. I think we better stop and rest, said Poppy. Maybe I can see where the raccoon went. She came out from under the skin, climbed atop the pump pedestal, and studied Gray House. To her relief, she could see no raccoons. The raccoon must have gone somewhere else, she called. But when she continued to look at Gray House, she realized not one mouse was in sight. That was unusual. She did see a pickup truck parked by the side of the road, a red car too. And even as she took all that in, she observed a blue car coming along the road. It seemed to be the same car she had seen at the log house. What's more, the car slowed down and stopped right in front of Gray House. Is everything okay? Basil called to Poppy. I'm not sure. I don't see any mice. That's strange. And there are those cars in front of Gray House, 3 of them. A truck and a red car and a blue car just came. I think it's the one that was near that awful trap. It just stopped in front of Gray House. I think that means humans are there. What are they doing? No idea. But no raccoons? Called Glory. I don't see them, but to be safe, maybe we should keep under the snake skin, said Poppy. It scared the raccoons. Maybe it'll scare the people. I suggest we go around to the front of the house with the snake skin. It'll be easier than going up the steep back steps. The 3 men inside the house heard the sound of the blue car stopping. That must be one of my clients, said Mr. Saunderson. He looked out the doorway. What I'll be telling them is that the best thing about this place is how quiet and calm it is. Only good thing about this, said the young man. And the closets, Mr. McGuffin said with a good-natured laugh. Lots of closets. The 3 men went out to the front porch to welcome the newcomers. Dudley the dog kept barking and straining at his leash, wanting to get into the house. Easy, boy, said Mr. Saunderson to the dog. Stay. Nothing's going to happen. And that's the end of chapter 38.